It's for you.
Good evening,
Good evening.
everyone. Thank you for joining us at 6 o'clock instead of 7:15.
Yes.
Hey,
Thank you,
Leah.
guys.
So glad
Hey,
you made
Leah.
it. I'm glad I texted you. So you might notice that
Good
there's
evening.
3 people up here on the
Yes.
screen instead of 2. And that is because at the very last minute, my friend and colleague who I talk about constantly, Scotti Sinardi, does not have his twin girls tonight and was able to join us for this live, which I am really happy about because, as you guys have heard, I talk about our struggles with the prosecution like weekly. And you could really say I complain about it, and you could really say I bitch about it. But so we're glad to have you. Hi, Scotti.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Scotti. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Hi, Barry Adams. Nice to see you.
Hey, Tanika.
Tanika. So nice to see
Dreamer.
you. I have super exciting news that I'm going to repeat like 15 times, which is that Tanika and I are going to do live stream, not next week, but the following week, which will be super fun because for every video she releases, I write comments like as she's going, then I have to go in and edit it like I'm talking to her in real life. And so finally I was like, will you please come on my channel so we can talk about things in real life? So I'm super excited about that. Hello, Ace. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Hi, Squeegee. Squeegee's doing food prep. I'm on a big screen, apparently, there. You know, I never knew that people could watch the YouTube on the big TV, and I don't feel like I am television material. Hi, Dream Melandry. Nice to see you. And Aaron is here handling things in the background, of course, because it takes a village for Sam, to have a YouTube channel. No, my face does not need to be large. Hi, Dad. How are you? I don't know if Mom got the notice. My stepmother was taken to the hospital again today for her hip, so I hope she is doing okay. Hi, Donna Barkley. Welcome in. So Scotti Sinardi is here. And he is a new attorney. He has been barred for just over a year and is kicking butt and taking names like nothing I've ever seen before. So not only is he a lawyer, but he is also the father to twin 4-year-olds, which I was not capable of handling like a job and a cat. He took my old job before he passed the bar and had twins and then studied for and passed the bar. And like I could do I couldn't do the twins and I didn't pass the bar. So I kept the job. And that's about it. And now I have Henry. Julie, nice to see you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us early. We had thought that Trial TV Live's stream would feed directly into this at 6 o'clock, which is the reason for the earlier time. But Squeegee of Justice was just too efficient and they got done even earlier. So hi, OnlyFan. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. Yes, Tanika is here. Super exciting. So I've got a couple. Barry Adams says, it's okay. I'm a twin too. One of us turned out okay. He's out ice skating. So as you guys know, we are starting a new series. We're going to come back to digital stuff off and on, but like I don't want to bore you into oblivion. So we're starting a new series called The Power of the Prosecution. And to go along with that, as I mentioned last week, I discussed a book and what I forgot was a docu-series and not a documentary called Time, the Khalif Browder story. The book is called Charged by Emily Bizzell. Now, I made my first poll on a community post and soon learned that I didn't give people the option to say yes, they were interested in the book and the movie. Like you had to pick one or the other. So I'm going to have to redo that whole thing. We, and by we, I mean Aaron at Child TV Live and I are trying to figure out a way in which we could watch that series together. It is not a lighthearted, happy thing, but I feel like it's super important. And when I tell you that I had no idea, I had no idea. It's a
I cried the whole time. So
it's a heartbreaking story. Yeah. So what I am thinking of doing, what I'm trying to figure out and plan is that I will not bring the book and the docuseries into this Saturday night stream. What I will do is, and I don't know if anybody's interested in the book because everybody voted for the documentary, because of the way I set up my poll, I guess. But also on they're similar topics, but they're not the same story. And I noticed on Bazel's on Emily Bazel's, did I say her name's Emily? Is that right? I already forgot.
Yes.
Oh my God, you guys. Yeah. The brain. I had to take some migraine medicine earlier, and it makes me even spacier than normal. So, hey, Mel, good to see you. So what I am thinking about doing is, if I figure out, so there's like this Netflix watch party situation that is available, but obviously copyright issues, we're not going to be able to bring that to YouTube. And I don't know the limit on the people. And it's only the host that has to have like a paying account, as far as I understand it. So again, Aaron from Child TV Live is helping me try to figure that mess out. And then as for the book, it comes in audio form, comes in a Kindle form, and it comes in paperback, hardback, all the things. But I went on her website. She's a law professor at Yale, which I did not know. And she did a whole bunch of like podcast appearances promoting the book. And I want to go and listen to those. And none of this is obligatory for anyone. Like, if you're interested in it, great. If you're not, that's okay too. I want to bring you information beyond my perspective, beyond my personal experience, and beyond what you see from the creators on YouTube. So that's the thinking there. And like I said, it's an experiment. So we'll have to sort of see how that works. All right. So, Barry says he has colleagues at Yale Law. Could probably get the hookup for a copy. Could you get the hookup for an interview? I'd love for her to come and talk about it. I emailed her, but yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I emailed her and I was like, obviously I have like 370 some subscribers. I don't even know how many subscribers I have. 374. Is that right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's sort of an ongoing situation. Working on it, trying to figure out what the best way to bring it to you guys is, and if there's enough interest to even do it. So look for a new poll, which hopefully I will do correctly. I'll check with Aaron before I post it. So Jenny, yes. Did you see anything new on the trial TVs this week that's jumped out to you that you want to bring to anyone's attention?
Well, one of the things we're going to talk about, but the Cochran trial is over with now, and watch that with Squeegee on Trial TV.
Okay,
Live.
And that was what?
That was the one in West Virginia, and that was Natalie Cochran, where she offed her husband with insulin. She was found guilty.
Yeah,
then they had the mercy hearing, and I had never even knew that they did that here.
Have you heard of that? Instead of, how we call it the penalty phase here, they call it a mercy phase.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of that before?
That sounds.
Yeah. What it is if they get convicted, then they actually have a hearing. It's like a mini trial, but then their character can come into play. So it's like almost like how, when you go into a penalty phase, people get up and speak for you. It's kind of like that, but they get to cross-examine, which is weird. They get to cross-examine and everything. So they have the direct, then they have the cross, the recross, kind of things like that. Redirect.
Do they do that in the penalty phase here, Scotti?
It's mostly litigation. Some witnesses can be second phase witnesses with a direct and cross, but it just depends on the kind of case.
Yeah, but they bring them to the stand. They do the whole. It's like a little mini trial, and then the jury decides whether or not they're going to get life with a possibility of parole in 15 years, whether they're going to give her mercy or not. And they did not give her mercy, so it's life.
Right? No, I know.
Florida's one of those lucky states that doesn't have parole.
Doesn't have parole. Yeah.
So there's. Okay, my question is, Aaron says, can I have Scotti introduce himself? Scotti, would you like to introduce yourself?
I sure will. My name is Scotti Sinardi, and I'm an attorney who practices criminal defense and family law in Tampa, Florida, and sprinkle in some other counties.
Yeah, really?
Yep.
Scotti,
my new boss.
Scotti and I work on, because he's associated with a law firm that I used to work at, we work on a lot of the same cases, almost all the same cases. I have a couple other attorneys I do work for, but in his own private practice, Scotti takes what's called indigent for cost cases. And what that means is that you could pay him as a private attorney, and then he can file indigent for costs, which means the JAC would turn around and pay the costs of your case. Like, for example, a private investigator, pay for court reporters and experts and all that sort of thing. So that's how I am able to work with him in his practice, because getting on the JAC approved vendor list takes time and experience. You want to explain that a little bit, Scotti?
Which one, IFC or court appointed?
No, how you get on the JAC list, so that you're trying so that you're able to be appointed to the cases there.
Okay. So regarding the JAC court appointed list, which is separate from indigent for cost, there are certain conditions that need to be met. For misdemeanor, I believe you need at least one trial and at least a year of legal experience. For certain felonies, you need 5 years experience or 5 trials. It just depends what the standards are. Each county kind of has their own different standards. I don't think these are JAC specific standards, but these are the standards that certain counties would require you to be having in order to be qualified as a JAC court appointed attorney. So it's really up to the county.
But you don't get to, as an attorney who's been out of law school a year, despite how well you're doing, you don't get to just try death penalty cases, right? I mean, that's not how it works here for that. There's actually several parts to it, right?
Yeah. So in Florida, you need to do what's called death qualified or certified.
Right.
And I don't know the number of trials off the top of my head, but you need a certain number of trial experience, certain number of actual murder trials or attempted murder trials, second chair phase experience as well. So there's just a lot of conditions that need to be met before you can be a first chair or first phase capital attorney.
Right. And you have to work your way up. I mean, when not only is it the number of cases tried to completion, but there's also a time limit imposed, and you have to start with misdemeanors. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know if you need to start with. I think it's at least here. Let me see if I can pull up 5 years of experience, 20 trials, and I think there's a certain number of them that need to be at least murder trials. But
in addition to being on the JAC list, you have to register. You have to get registered with your county, your circuit. Correct. And the circuit has to approve you. So it's a multiple step process. Barry Adams says, for trial experience, do you have to be second chair?
Let's see. I pulled up the qualifications. So the qualifications are obviously a barred attorney, 5 years in the field of criminal defense, knowledgeable, and then I'm trying to find where it says.
Just to be on the court-appointed list, you have to have 5 years in.
Well, this is for death certified. The court-appointed list is different per county. So each county kind of sets their own standards.
So Barry Adams says, for trial experience, do you have to be second chair for it to count at all? Or does it insert other chair number count towards it as well?
According to the rules, it says just co-counsel. So,
which means you'd have to file a notice of appearance. And correct. I think that the cases have to be what's called tried to completion.
You need a jury verdict.
Yeah, you need, and right now you've been taking private cases from Hillsborough County, which is the 13th Circuit, as I've said like 5,000 times. But you're also taking cases out of the 6th Circuit, which includes Pinellas and Pasco County, which I guess for most people includes the places they would know would be like Clearwater and St. Petersburg. Is that right?
Correct.
And can you just tell us a little bit about how different it is to practice in Tampa in the Hillsborough County versus the 6th Circuit, so the people find out that I'm not making this up?
So I would say Hillsborough County / Tampa / 13th Circuit, their systems they have in place are far more efficient regarding digital evidence, obtaining digital evidence, discovery. In Tampa, certain discovery can be emailed. It can be exchanged through a website called evidence.com, which sends you a link where you can just download videos or any other digital evidence. Not in Pinellas County, St. Pete, Clearwater, or Pasco. You need to mail in discs. They'll mail you discovery, and nothing's really e-filed. So any kind of notices of discovery or police reports, typically like in Hillsborough, those are exchanged via email or some kind of electronic format, whereas in other counties they will mail you hard copies of everything,
which is insane because we're getting terabytes. We're getting terabytes worth of data. So for Pinellas County, when I was working in the law office and having to deal with that circuit, the prosecutors did not have voicemail. They did not have email addresses. There was, and in Hillsborough, my experience was, and this is pre-pandemic, my experience was calling the prosecutor's cell phone was the fastest way to get to them.
Right. And I think picking back off of that, in Tampa, there's more of a one-on-one communication with the state attorney or the prosecutor, whereas in other counties, it's more so you're dealing with the assistant. An example I can give, just this past week in Hillsborough, you can email to schedule depositions. Other counties, you need to call the state attorney's assistant, have them look at the calendar, come back at you with dates, and then wait to schedule. So everything is just a lot slower elsewhere.
So it's annoying, right? When you work within the Florida criminal court system, that there's no continuity between counties. Like Miami-Dade is different from Hillsborough, is different from Pinellas, is different from Duval, right? There's no, the clerks of court websites are all very different. Thank you, tennis girl. Nice to see you. Girl. It's just, it's frustrating, and we have it really good here in Hillsborough. And it seems to me because, you've been having to drive between the courthouses, that the 6th Circuit just, I keep asking you, why won't they let you just Zoom, or why can't you get coverage? Like, why do you have to just appear and have hearings on everything? Why do you think that they are so different than it is here in Tampa?
Part of my thought process is I think the actual state attorney may be a little paranoid about leaking discovery and confidentiality, which I can understand. I just also feel like he hasn't really caught up with the times. And so that's been, I've talked to other attorneys about it, and we're all kind of on the same page there. I guess there was some kind of incident that may have happened. I don't know the details, but discovery may have gotten leaked digitally. And so everything, I guess I figured, stick with paper. in mail.
But how does that
so
work when we are
inefficient.
getting all of, like I've been talking about, I know you've cut some of the streams, but I've spent weeks talking about all the digital discovery and the cell phone stuff and all of that.
Yeah, they make you mail on a hard disk. And I don't know anybody uses disk readers anymore,
Wow.
but yeah, they put body cam footage on disk, whereas in other counties they'll just send you a link to watch it and download it.
Yeah,
so
that's insane.
Yeah.
So I don't, Squeegee has a question for you, Scotti. What, if anything, are your thoughts on Mr. Owens and Mr. Lally? I don't know how much of the trials Scotti has caught. So Owens was Sarah Boone's attorney, and Lally, I think, was the prosecutor in Reed. Am I right? I'm not sure if Lally was the prosecutor, but I think maybe.
Maybe.
Did you
I did not catch it, so that's my homework. Then I'll catch up on some. I'm busy doing trials.
No, you've got enough. You got enough to do.
You got to get me worked in.
Trial TV said we don't even have CD drives in any of our computers. Yeah, I don't Katie's or PI Sam's CD drive that she has an external one. So
yes, along with all these other the cords and the electronics and this stuff is just absolutely insane. So yeah, Lally was the prosecutor in Karen Reed. Scotti has not had time to actually sit at a desk and even do his own work. So he is literally right now always in his car. So I asked him what the pay was for me to drive him so he could be the Lincoln lawyer, except he's got an expedition. And I would just let him sit in the back seat and practice the law from there. While I fought the traffic, but
yeah, some of these counties are 40 minutes or more away from each other, and
the pay just isn't good enough
on the same day. So
I wouldn't be able to do it either because I can't drive. So if I did that, then we would be in a lot of trouble. So if I lived down there, I would get you more in trouble. So then you would defend me though. So it'd be all good. I can't drive.
So one of the reasons why I wanted Scotti to come on and this was very last minute, you guys. I was on the phone with him at 5 o'clock when he said that he didn't have his twins tonight. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, why didn't you come on stream? He was in the car. He's like, do I need to stream from the car?
Yeah.
Like, no, you don't have to stream from the car. It's okay. So we have not prepared for this, but I feel like this is all we ever do is complain about what the state is doing to us.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we do.
This series is called The Power of the Prosecution. So one of the things that I want to make clear, and one of the things we were talking about just briefly, is that it's not law enforcement or the judges that are the problem, or not the problem, right? That have the power. It's the prosecutor. My favorite and easiest example to explain this to you is baby mamas, and no offense to any baby mamas, this is my personal experience, will get angry at baby daddy and they call law enforcement for a domestic. And when that happens, somebody's going to jail that day, which is usually baby daddy. Baby mama thinks that the next day she can just call up and say, I dismiss the charges. But guess what?
Doesn't work.
Baby mama can't do that. They can't do that because the prosecutor is the one with the power. So there is no, I don't want to press charges, and so the case gets dropped. It doesn't work like that. Is that right, Scotti?
Yeah, no, it's really up to the state if they want to proceed with prosecuting the case or not. I mean, I've had cases where the alleged victims or baby mamas or family members or friends or whatever say they don't want the state to prosecute, and I have them fill out what's called an affidavit of non-prosecution. Pretty much just I notarize it, they sign it, and says, me as a victim, I don't want them to proceed with the case. And so I've just recently there's a case I have with 5 alleged victims. 3 of them don't want to proceed. So I sent those affidavits, and the state said, yeah, we don't care. We're still proceeding with the charges.
So that has been asked of me before, right? Is what power or what influence do like victims have in choosing whether or not a case proceeds to
Right.
trial?
I mean, going even further than that, more than an affidavit, I've had victims show up in court testifying to the judge that they don't want the state to proceed with the charges and prosecuting, and the state says, oh, well, we're still proceeding.
So, and then there are cases like Stephen Lorenzo, for example. Stephen Lorenzo was serving 200 years in the federal system for some fairly heinous crimes here in Tampa that occurred in right around 2004 or 5-ish. And how do I begin with him? So the state of Florida, he was in federal court and serving a federal sentence. The state of Florida then decided they would prosecute for first degree murder, and they brought him out of federal prison and brought him down here, and he put us through sovereign citizen hell for 5 years. He's now on death row, which is where he wanted to be. And with him, I was like, he was always like, why did they wait so long to charge me here, to bring these charges? And I have to think, Scotti, that it was about the parents of the two victims, especially the one. She was always on the news. Do you think that's the case, that like victims' families who want something to go forward, do you think they put pressure on the state to move forward?
Absolutely. I have a case of it was an accident, vehicular homicide. A passenger died. My client showed up to the funeral, was cordial with the family, was sympathetic, because it was, at the end of the day, it was still their friend. And not but a year and a half later did the state finally decide to press charges because of pressure from that kid's parents. So yeah, the family does play a huge role in it.
So they play a role in terms of, like, the state will accept the pressure to, for lack of a better way of saying it, the state will accept the pressure to prosecute, but they don't listen as much when people say, oh, I don't want to press the charges. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's pretty fair. And I think, I won't answer your question, Squeegee, specific names, but some prosecutors are more willing to drop charges depending on certain facts, whereas other prosecutors are more gung-ho on, they don't want to listen and they still just want to prosecute.
Well, and we also know that some of the prosecutors are a little bit vindictive, and my theory, at least for one of the ones that we have experience with, I believe that he was very unpopular in high school and is getting his revenge for
and I think my experience has been that certain counties, some prosecutors are better than in other counties. I mean, I'm not, I'll say that maybe I've got better connections with Hillsborough prosecutors than I would say in Pasco County or Polk County or Pinellas County. Every state attorney's office is different. So,
but you worked in the Hillsborough. His name is Scotti Sinardi, therapist.
She might be asking about she might be asking about
the client. Yeah. Stephen Lorenzo. You can Google it.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube. I completely lost. Oh, I know. You worked at the public defender's office, right, while you were still in law school.
correct.
And because of that, a lot of people down, at the courthouse. And what you told me recently is that a lot of people are leaving the state and moving to the public defender, and vice versa.
Yeah, the new administration, I saw, I think it was Barry who mentioned that the new administration and elected officials kind of play a role. A lot of people are leaving the public defender's office and going to the state attorney's office, and people are leaving the state attorney's office and going to the public defender's office, or some people are going private. When the election results came in and new administration came in, I don't think some people were really happy with it, and so they left.
And do you think that that's common with the change in
changing the power?
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. I mean, I think, like I said, it plays a huge role with some things. I mean, it's kind of created a little bit of an awkward situation where before I was working with some of the public defenders from the public defender's office on co-defendant cases, and now some of those public defenders are state attorneys, and they're the ones giving offers and handling some of my cases. So it's kind of created a different environment.
Do you think that, so it sounds to me like from our conversations, and if something bad ever happened to me, Scotti would be the one person to know, because he's the one person I talk to constantly. But it seems to me like you've been telling me most cases don't go to trial, right? I think most of us who follow true crime know that. Most of them plead out. But it sounds to me like you're dealing with some new state's attorneys, some new prosecutors that are not being jerks, right? That they're being more willing to work with you. And my question on that is that an age thing, or like, as in, we've dealt with a lot of people my age, which is 50s, right? 51, gonna be 52, and up, right? We know that there's an entire generation that needs to sort of retire, versus your generation where you are 24 years old. And so do you think that has anything to do with how the prosecution runs, or how they negotiate pleas, or their flexibility, or anything?
I haven't really seen much regarding offers as it pertains to age, but I do realize like some state attorneys or even private attorneys will treat younger attorneys different, perhaps like a lack of respect or not take them serious. There's definitely just a hierarchy, I think, between the ages and in the courtroom. So,
do you also feel like maybe there's I feel like when I'm watching cases, whether we're in our own courtroom or whether it's on trial TV, I feel like there is, and I think I've spoken about this before, I feel like there's a growing disconnect between
yeah.
the
I already know what you're getting at, but
Me too.
Well, okay, so for example, we see a lot of the lawyers can't work with the tech, right?
Yeah.
They don't understand that.
Well, I think that's a huge role, and I think sometimes, it's sad to say, but I think the older some attorneys get, the more jaded they get, and the less they start caring about, clients and the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
I think the younger generation kind of has like a fresh view on things, and they're more adamant to want to push things. And I can't say what's going to happen in the future for my generation of young lawyers. I don't know if they're going to become jaded and not really care. I don't know, but that's just been my experience. The older ones, they seem to have more of a disrespect to the client sometimes, or I've seen attorneys argue with clients in the courtroom, and it takes me aback a little bit, but that's just been my experience.
So one of the things I noticed, or that kind of struck me, I was having a conversation a number of years ago. I graduated law school in 2014, and I was, it was like 3 months before I turned 40. I was, and I've said this before, I was the oldest person in my class. I went to law school with 400 millennials. And one of my best friends was working, I think she's with Office of Regional Counsel now, but she's working for Public Defender's office down in Key West. And I was telling her about how I was struggling to get discovery, and the attorney I was working for wouldn't do anything about it, basically. She said, "Are you kidding me? The day, they have that 15-day line, and when that 16th day rolls over, we're filing motions to compel." And I thought, wow, that's really what a different approach that is from the older attorney I was working for, who just sort of takes this sit back and don't rock the boat sort of approach to everything. And I feel like that's not advocacy.
Yeah, some attorneys have a sit and wait kind of attitude. And I think, going back to building relations with some of these state attorneys, public defenders, that plays a huge role in it. I mean, for some of these people, when you're, like I said, public defenders moving to state attorney's office and vice versa, these people sometimes outside of the courtroom. And the last thing you want to do is maybe upset them in the courtroom. And then that carries over into possibly a friendship or whatever the situation may be. Very rarely has it happened to me. I do have some friends I do work against. Just as a courtesy, sometimes I'll say, just know, expect a motion to dismiss coming your way. That's about the extent of it. I give them a heads up, but other than that, I don't really have a problem rocking the boat. So,
yeah, I feel like that's a better approach, right? Because the other thing I've talked about on here, and that you and I talk about almost daily, is how, we've got cases that are 5 and 6 years old that will hopefully finally go to trial this year. We've got one guy with
cases that are 9 years old.
Yeah, so we've got one. Is that the one I'm thinking of? Our death penalty case.
It's a RICO case.
Huh?
It's a RICO case.
Okay, so we've got another
I don't think I know about that one yet.
That's a we've got another one that's a double homicide from 2018. It's a death penalty case, and the client is complaining because we haven't been to see him at the jail. And it's like, well, we've been working on this for 7 years now. And I was telling you earlier, I'm like, there's not anything else I can do on this case that I can bill the JAC for. They're going to be like, you've billed us for trial prep 15 times already. And that's just really, I think that's really unfortunate, is seeing how long things are taking. And what role do you think the prosecutor plays in that, in how long it takes for these cases to come to trial? Would you say that that's more on them versus the defense attorneys, or is it just the process period?
I'll give you the best lawyer answer I can give you, and it's going to be
it depends.
It depends. Sometimes it's strategy. Sometimes there may still be ongoing.
We say that a lot, don't we?
Sometimes discovery can still be ongoing, especially with cases like murder that involves DNA and other forensics that take time to get tested. That causes a delay in discovery. And the last thing you want to get into is, again, discovery or prosecutorial misconduct. So, another example would be drug cases and getting drug testing from, at least in Florida, what's called Florida Department of Law Enforcement, who
they're familiar with the FDLE.
Who tests the drugs. You have to wait for those, and sometimes trial dates get set and you're still waiting on test results, and so things get pushed out.
So let me ask you about this. Did you tell me, and we all know my memory is just fantastic. Didn't you tell me that, and I might have mentioned this last week, that you were in court on a case that we have that's going to trial, that there were 10 cellular devices, and that the state spoke up and said, hey, we have another one, and we're like now maybe a week out or 2 weeks out?
It was a week out from trial, and the state said, oh, we were going through our devices and we realized we missed one, which happened to be the co-defendant's cell phone, which is very
and that's right. I spent weeks on here and barely scratched the surface of the cell phone and digital data stuff.
Yeah.
So, and the judge was fine with that, right? She wasn't going to give you a continuance. She just told you to give them a hard drive and for them to give you the phone.
The judge just said, we don't know what's on the phone, so figure it out before I grant you a continuance. Lately, a lot of judges have been reluctant to grant continuances. I had a sex case and I still needed to take depositions on it, and I asked for a continuance, and the judge said, figure it out. We're not granting it. Till I kept pressing her the day of trial for a continuance, and reluctantly she granted it. So
I think I told them about that you showed up because she wouldn't grant a continuance. You showed up to try a case, and she granted the continuance the day of, which is just crazy. do you feel like that people who choose to work in the prosecutor's office versus the public defender's office, a lot of people, like you said, go back and forth, right?
Right.
And we see on YouTube, like Peter Trigos, for example, he has been a prosecutor, he has been a defense attorney, he mostly does personal injury plaintiff's attorney work now, because that's where the money is if you've got the patience. So a lot of attorneys spend some time in the prosecutor's office and some time in the defense office. I don't know if people know this or not, which is, if you, at least in the state of Florida, because I don't know anywhere else, if you go to work at a law school in public service for 10 years and you, I guess, I don't know if you pay a certain amount but anyway, you have to work.
Yeah,
right?
there's just some standard amount they set monthly, which is not cheap.
But after the 10 years, your loans are gone.
Yeah, it's called public service loan forgiveness.
Public service loan forgiveness. So that's why a lot of attorneys start in the public defender's office or the prosecutor's office, or they flip back and forth. So do we think, my very long-winded question then is, do you think it's a different kind of personality that succeeds more in one or the other? Like, you worked in the public defender's office. Could you ever see yourself being a prosecutor?
No, I knew from the beginning I didn't want to do prosecutor work. I knew I was always on the defense side. I feel like their job's a little easier, but just, I really felt like my passion was criminal defense and fighting for the little guys and justice, which brings us to PI Sam's channel, which, the prosecutorial misconduct and the injustice we face every day.
So how do I even, the resources that the state has.
Yeah, they get law enforcement training, access to cellular, what's the word?
Cellbrite, but they get the software and the hardware.
Right. They get Cellhawk as well.
And Axiom magnet.
Yep. They get access to even, I was telling PI Sam earlier about a case I had where they were getting access to facial recognition technology that private attorneys don't get access to. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that they get training for, and they have days set aside specifically with law enforcement officers to get this kind of training. So even in private criminal work or public defender's office, they don't get that kind of access to certain things.
And see, people don't realize that either. We're watching trials. Before I met Sam, I was one of those people, watch trials and you're like, why aren't they doing anything? And then she, enlightened me to the fact of how this side works. And that's why I love her channel so much. I'm grateful to have her, be able to have me along and have met you. Yeah. Because now it's like, I see the bright light, because I had no idea.
Yeah, Barry, the attorney that PI Sam and I worked for, actually did that. They went from the prosecutor's office to the private defense. I think they were a prosecutor for 7 years. So,
and was the chief of the felony division, I think, when they left. So therapist, says you have to have some cojones to want to be a criminal defense attorney. Or she's saying that you have that is astounding to her, and kudos.
Trying to set aside, there's some cases that are difficult to really want to work on. But most of the time I tell myself the people that are involved in the crime are usually, that's the kind of life they chose, and that's their decisions. I have to tell myself something, otherwise I drive myself crazy. But
we have the conversation a lot, and it's not something that it is something that I have spoken about repeatedly throughout these live streams, which is that there are the ones that are, we're not here to get people off from doing bad things, right? We're here to ensure that the process goes as the way it's supposed to to the extent that we can.
Yeah.
And that every once in a while, the one that you want to fight for, that deserves to really and truly be fought for, they do come along. And when you're going through this cycle like we are right now of all these 14-year-olds who are literally shooting each other,
got a lot of minor defendants,
so many,
a lot of kids
that you know, every once in a while, I mean, we talk about it, right? That we don't have a defense. There's nothing that can be done. It's on social media. It's on surveillance camera. They, you know, it's all there, right? We don't have anything, and it's hard to fight because of that. There is no defense. But sometimes we've had people who have come along that maybe were overcharged or shouldn't be necessarily in the position that they are, and those are the ones we really and truly like put the energy into. Not that we don't advocate for everyone.
We advocate for everybody, but there's some that we take personal because we know that they're either innocent or we're just put in a bad position.
Kids getting lost in the crap. Yeah, they get
not just kids
around.
Not just kids.
Yeah.
Tanika says that she learned earlier that Cellbrite is not the only game in town. She can't remember which hearing, but it was last week. I saw it
Maybe
too.
Karen Reed. It was Karen Reed.
So there's Cellhawk. There is Grey Key.
A little bit more detailed than Cellbrite.
And Axiom Magnet is the other one, which when we did Lorenzo had a couple of his hard drives confiscated. Can't imagine why. And they imaged those using Axiom Magnet, and then they handed those the thumb drives over to me. So I had to go and teach myself how to use it so I could go to the jail and teach him how to use it. It's very similar to Cellbrite. But yeah, there are more than one providers or whatever you want to call it in the cellular game. But Cellbrite, I think, is the most well known. And they are law enforcement / government exclusive. Yeah. Like I've said before, the best.
Or they're just really expensive.
Well, Cellhawk you can buy, which I've talked about that before, but you need some money. Axiom and Axum are two different things, Barry Adams. So Axum is the body cam. Axum, yeah. You answered your own question. There you go. Yeah, you're right. Let's see. Okay, hold on. Chat's getting away from me. Barry says that's why sometimes the defenders can only advocate for their clients when confronted with all the bad apples and bad facts. I mean, we do the best we can for everyone. And, you know, the only way that you get up out of the bed every single day and keep going is that the system is so unbalanced. We don't have the resources, and there has to be somebody that is willing to go out there and participate, you know, in this and try as hard as we can to push back and say, no, we deserve this. We need this. This is for our clients, like getting our one kid evaluated and that ongoing thing that I've been talking about since August. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Do you take training for each app system? Would I be able to take it as a layperson? Tanika, girl, they will not give us training. So I called Cellbrite and I said, I need some training. And they said, okie dokie, you can pay us $250 and you will sit through a 1-hour lecture on Cellbrite Reader. You can
have the file on that. You just go online and get the file on how to use the program.
Well, they update it constantly.
They update it all the time. Yeah.
They update it constantly. But I was mad because I paid them the money. And so I was like, this is absolutely ridiculous. So I wrote them, the woman that I've been working with there, I wrote to them and I said, this is ridiculous. The fact that you have charged me this money when I work in criminal defense for the indigent and I am paying this out of my own pocket, and this is what you call training. I said, this is absolutely ridiculous and I want a refund. And they gave it to me. And she said at that point, I don't even know what year this was that I did that, but she said at some point that they were going to work on it. And I don't know if they have done that. Cellbrite has a YouTube channel, Tanika, but they, I think the videos are like 2 minutes. And if you don't have access to Cellbrite Reader, the actual extraction of a phone, it isn't going to do you any good.
Right.
And I don't know that that would ever be public record that you could get. Scotti, is that public record?
Hold on. I don't think it's public record. I'm not sure though.
Happy birthday to Route Irish. Thank you for joining us on your birthday if you're here.
Chris had asked him a question earlier, the one that was up on the screen.
And what was that? Sorry.
Asking if he's the only lawyer in the family.
Are you the only lawyer in your family, Scotti?
I have distant family that I found out not too long ago was a lawyer. So
very distant.
As far as immediate family, I am the only lawyer.
Wow. So what made you decide to become an attorney?
To me for legal advice. But I mean, I just always knew I wanted to be a lawyer. The fast pace, especially of criminal law, really caught my interest. Again, always knew I wanted to do criminal defense. I liked watching trials back in the day. Now I'm no time to really watch any, but yeah. So awesome. I was like you guys, and now I'm living it. And
so Tanika, even if you are willing to pay for training, you can't. And what did you tell me just before we came on that you were trying to get into like the facial recognition software or something that law enforcement?
Yeah, I tried to use this software that law enforcement had, and it said I either had to be a state attorney or public defender, or a law enforcement officer. So,
and that's what we run up against with literally everything. There are organizations like the National Association, National Association Defense Lawyers, and there might be a public defender one. There are some trainings that are put on, but they're for like life over death or death is different. That is a required CLE to become death certified to try death penalty cases. But what that means is that's continuing lawyer education, which is required every 2 years in Florida. You have to meet a certain number of credits and you have to pay for it. But in order to even get on the death certified list, you have to have not only worked your way up through all the levels, but you also then have to go and be death certified. And so off the top of my head, that's the training I can think of, right? Is continuing legal education. And I know that some of the subjects sometimes are about digital things, but no, they're not going to give us access to any of that stuff. They won't give it to, if they won't give it to an attorney with a bar license, they're not going to give it to a civilian. It just isn't, it doesn't work like that.
Right.
Okay, so I've lost, I don't know what anybody's talking about in the chat. Here. The I Rescue Dogs, good to see you. The Colin Griffin trial in Florida had an interesting argument on attorney-client
privilege
for a minor regarding text messages to the lawyer from the child's phone. Mom took pictures of the text. So the issue there, I'm guessing, is the minor is the client, right? So then the attorney-client privilege lies between the minor and the attorney and not the mom.
Yeah, I mean, even worse than maybe baby mama sometimes is parents that try and get involved in their kids' cases. And, I understand, when you're 14, 15, 16-year-olds facing criminal charges in adult court, I'd want to be involved too, but sometimes they don't understand the process either. And so they become so invested, and it's like the parent becomes the client because the kid doesn't understand everything. Parents are explaining it to the children in a way that they can understand because, I mean, legal stuff is not easy to understand, and even some adults even don't understand it. So I can't imagine a 14, 15, 16-year-old being able to.
So she follows up and says, yes, it wasn't allowed. Mom was allowed to look at the phone, but not waive privilege. He's on. Yeah, I know the case. It's his second
Both his
parental homicide.
Mm-hmm.
So Tanika says, does that mean privilege was breached, or does it extend to the parent of a minor? The minor, the attorney-client privilege lies between the minor and the attorney, right? Even if it's a minor. Is that not correct? You're muted.
You're muted.
I'm muted.
There he is.
Yes, it lies with the kid, not the parents. So I have to explain that to them every time they try and talk to me. We actually had a case where a judge was upset that I didn't meet with the parents to go over their son's case, who is now an adult, but was 17 at the time of offense. And the judge said, I told her, I said, I represent their son, not them. Attorney-client privilege doesn't lie with them. The judge took that personal and said, I understand that, still talk to his parents. And so judge set out another hearing date just for me to meet with the parents.
So what is your thoughts on that? Do you think if they're under a certain age, whether the parent should be involved?
I think parents should be involved, again, because if my kids were charged with the serious crimes that a lot of these kids are charged with, I'd be involved. Murder, drug charges, facing life. I don't think any parent wouldn't want to be involved, but I think sometimes they make it harder than they think they're helping.
Right.
They get mad at the attorneys because they don't understand everything either, and so they're taking it out on the attorneys. And then the other issue is you meet with the children and they say they understand everything when they're incarcerated, and then 2 seconds later you leave and they're crying to their parents, who are now calling me saying, what did you tell my kid? What's going on? Why is my child crying? So on and so forth. So
that happens to me too. Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't want your 22-year-old to know he was facing felony murder, life in jail. Maybe he shouldn't have done that then.
A lot of times too, I would think sometimes the kids don't want the parents to know what they're telling you.
Well, and then we've got times when when the kids and the parents are telling us 2 different stories.
Yeah.
The prosecution was saying the client child waived the privilege because he knew she would look at the phone. Judge said otherwise. Well, that was a very contentious relationship. I was trying to follow that trial at the beginning of the week, and I lost track, and we'll have to go back.
Yeah, I did too.
Barry, sir, my loans for law school, not for undergrad, for 3 years of law school, are approaching $400,000. I did not walk out the door with $400,000 in loans, but it was in the several hundreds of thousands of dollars. The interest on those grows faster than I could ever hope to pay off. Ever. Like, even if I went to
his last 2 years.
Yeah, even if I went
worried about him
and worked in big law, the payment they want from me is $5,000 a month. The payment they are not getting from me is $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
It is not happening, and I do not care, because I'm 51 years old. I don't intend to ever purchase another house. I've had 3. That's enough. This is ridiculous. And the reason why people can't pay their loans off, as you know, because you're a CPA, is the compounding interest. And I don't do math, but I can tell you one thing: $400,000 for 3 years of school is ridiculous. And when I went to sign up for one of the new SAVE programs, they gave me like 5 payback options. One of them was at $900,000 by the time I was done, and another one was at $1.1 million.
Ooh. Okay. Jack's getting ready to graduate, so that scares me, because he paid for the last 2 years, and just for his personal loan, he's got $64,000 out, and that's not including the federal loans. He's got unsubsidized and subsidized for 2 years. So yeah, I'm like, that's what he wanted to do, and he's going into politics. So he's doing American and international government politics. So that's what he wanted to do. We paid the first 2. He's paying the last 2.
So I Rescue Dog says the prosecution was saying the client child waived the privilege because he knew she would look at the phone. Judge said, oh, I already had that up there. Sorry. Is there a parental privilege? I know there's attorney-client, doctor-patient, spousal, clerical, priest, etc., but never heard of parent. No.
No.
So, okay, we're getting a little off track about the prosecution and the insane amount of power they wield and how difficult it is for those of us who are working in criminal defense to deal with that. And I heard even Peter Tragos, who is a very experienced attorney with a very large channel, saying repeatedly the power of the prosecution is astounding.
Almighty.
It kind of is. It
Yeah.
kind of is. Scotti, do you want to talk about like when you first figured out how much power the prosecution had?
Oh yeah, I mean, all the power lies with the prosecution, starting with the first offer you get for your client. From there, it's really a numbers game and fighting it out in court. I mean, you know, what comes in, and a lot of times, unfortunately, judges do lean more so to the state, and you know, that's always a constant uphill battle. But even though the burden's on them, it feels like, you know, everybody just leans in favor of the state.
Like Judge Bev.
Yeah, Judge Bev in the Karen Reed trial. I mean,
have tons of people asking, well, can I get this judge recused? Can I get this judge recused? And unfortunately, even though it looks like they're being prejudiced towards the defendant, it's still not enough. I mean, there has to be some kind of egregious behavior by a judge for them to get it recused, which means thrown off the case. But I mean, it's just observing it in the courtroom, you can tell which judges will make decisions that lean more so in favor of the state rather than defense.
Yeah.
So the reason why I finally got on YouTube was because people were complaining about the money that was being spent on Sarah Boone's defense. And really and truly, that was a drop in the bucket compared to what the state can spend, right? I mean, we have to fight for every dollar spent.
Right. I was going to say, we have to fight to get resources, and the state
of want to pay for it.
Florida or whatever state it is will pay the state attorney's office and law enforcement for those resources so they can use them.
We've made comments when we go out to the jail, for example, because I don't go to the state attorney's office, but I do go to the jail, how they have all these bright, shiny, fancy new toys all the time. And so, you know, money is directed there. And I am going to talk about misconduct by law enforcement. And I realize that the two are kind of entangled because of like if we just even think about the Karen Reed case and that investigation, and then the conduct by the state or the Commonwealth, sorry, and the Baldwin case, which I knew about the misconduct by Carrie Morrissey, who was the final special prosecutor on the case. I didn't know that it went all the way back to the original police investigation, or that it went on to the first prosecutor. And it's such a tangled web people weave. And I'm kind of trying to figure out like how to address both, but not be super confusing. And I really don't know how to do that. But like, for example, the case that I have that's so old that I kind of want to turn you guys loose on when the current litigation is done, that is back in court because that man was sentenced when he was a minor for felony murder to life. The crime happened when he was 17 years old. And that was in
1998, wasn't
it? Yeah, so that's when the murder happened. He wasn't indicted until 2001. I don't think he was tried until 2004. So what happened was Florida changed a law that said that people who were minors at the time their crime was committed and were sentenced to life, because we don't have parole here, they were eligible for resentencing. And so he applied and was granted the resentencing. And he got the public defender's office in the Sixth Circuit was appointed to his case, and they started going through all the evidence, all the discovery, all the reports, and they came across a little letter from a jailhouse snitch, one who happened to testify for the state. And that letter went through the main state's attorney's hands, the assistant state's attorney's hands, and was directed to an investigator within the state's attorney's office, and also mentioned a sheriff, I believe. And that is why, so his resentencing then got put on hold, because clearly we have prosecutorial misconduct going on, which leads me into one of the reasons why I wanted to ask Scotti to come on, which is talking about Brady and GIGLIO, because we hear that a lot. And while I know that my chat and that the YouTube true crime community is very, very smart, I wanted to learn more about the distinction between Brady and GIGLIO. So will you tell us about that, Scotti, please?
Sure. So Brady is a case that had occurred. I don't know the year, but pretty much what it states is that the state has to turn over any exculpatory evidence, which means any evidence that can be used to try and prove the innocence or exonerate someone charged with a criminal crime. An example would be maybe some kind of DNA evidence that would be used to prove that it was somebody else and not the person being criminally charged, or something along those lines. Body camera footage that could be used to not corroborate whatever the state is alleging had occurred. Pretty much anything that can be used for the benefit of the defense needs to be turned over to the defense. And so they can't hold out on stuff knowing that it could be used to try and get someone off.
Okay. And so do you think that Brady is there always going to be a Brady and a GIGLIO violation at the same time, or is it just one or the other?
So Brady sets the standard. GIGLIO kind of expanded the standard a little bit. GIGLIO pretty much states if there are kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Evidence that can be used to impeach somebody that's a witness, or be used to attack that said witness's credibility, that needs to be turned over as well.
So would that be my letter that from that jailhouse snitch that said, hey, I came
in your example, that would be both, because it would be a part of the discovery, which would be a Brady issue if they didn't turn it over. And then it would be a GIGLIO issue because it's the credibility of said witness that's being
right. So that's why I was asking the question, because it didn't, even though I've reviewed the case and I've been assisting the attorney who is currently working on it, and who went to file this motion for a new trial. And I was surprised when he said, this one's a Brady issue, this is a GIGLIO.
Right.
And I was kind of like, oh, okay, I didn't think about it that way exactly. And that's why I was asking you about it earlier.
Yeah. So therapist, who gets to make the determination, and that's a good point. And so ultimately it'd be the judge determine if something wasn't admitted, if it was brought up later on appeal or something, if it wasn't admitted, would have been prejudicial to the defendant based on it not being admitted. So if it was admitted, could it have found them innocent? Could it have helped their case? Would it have brought in, would it have caused a domino effect to lead to the discovery of new evidence? That's kind of the standard that they use. So kind of to piggy off that, I would say maybe everything could probably benefit the defendant because it could lead to new discovery of other evidence. So if they have it, they need to turn it over, is pretty much what the court said.
So in Alec Baldwin's case, the special prosecutor, Carrie Morrissey, made the decision that she didn't think evidence was relevant. So she didn't turn it over, and then she hid it. Well, she says she didn't know she hid it. behind a completely different case number. And so she decided what was important. And we complain that we're getting terabytes of information, but I'd rather them give us terabytes of information than decide what they're gonna show us versus what they're not.
Yeah, and then find it out in the middle
Tanika,
like that.
I was just about to say something about that. The parallel obligation. So the obligation, I would say, more so lies on the state, but if the defense has anything they intend to use, say at trial, then they need to disclose it to the state. We as defense attorneys have what's called work product, which means, for example, for the PI Sam, if she goes out and investigates something and say we think it'll help us or it actually turns out to hurt us, we don't necessarily have to turn it over to the state unless we intend to use it for the case. So if she goes out and gets a statement from someone who's not even a listed witness or something, and the statement doesn't really help us, we don't have to list said person as a witness and then disclose these statements to the state.
Makes sense.
Other examples could be if someone says they have an alibi, we would investigate, or Florida PI Sam would investigate this alleged alibi. And if it turns out to be a whole lot of nothing, we don't really have to turn that over to the state.
Therapist, says if the prosecution didn't turn something over that could be exculpatory, how does the judge decide if the prosecution did that with malice or not?
I don't think malice is really an element of it. I think it's more so misconduct regardless, because if they have it and don't turn it over, it wasn't, I would say, it just causes for a mistrial. And I've seen cases get mistried over it or get thrown out. There's motions to dismiss based on Brady issues. Yeah. So I saw a case recently. It wasn't mine, but it was someone I knew. They had gotten a case dismissed because the state had video evidence that they didn't ever turn over, and eventually it got destroyed. And so it would have been used to prove the defense of the case. And so they filed a motion to dismiss because if they would have had that evidence, would have been shown a different light, the crime or alleged crime. So
therapist, this is where some nuances come in, right? So under Brady, there's 3 elements. The evidence at issue must be favorable to the accused, either because it is exculpatory or because it's impeaching. That evidence must have been suppressed by the state, either willfully or inadvertently, and prejudice must have ensued. So that is from Strickler v. Green, so that's not even Brady. And then you go on to Cardona v. State, evaluating a Brady claim under the 3-prong test set forth in Strickler. Under the prejudice prong, the defendant must show that the suppressed evidence is material. Okay, so what is material evidence? Well, it's material only if there is a reasonable probability that had the evidence been disclosed to the defense, the result of the proceeding would have been different. Okay, so then what is reasonable? And that's how, so like this just goes on, right? So case after case, it builds like that. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about making these arguments, right? They see the first 3 elements of Brady, but then it's literally dissecting like every single word and determining what that means. And you argue that based on what other cases have determined is reasonable. The JAC determines whether I get paid or not based on what they think my work is reasonable or not. Scotti says he has to go in like 10 minutes. So if anybody has any questions for him, will you please put them in the chat? Therapist says, so they should basically always turn everything over, no questions. 100%.
Yes, should, but do they? No.
No,
they never do it on time.
They don't turn everything over. And so so let's say, Scotti, that we're trying to get discovery in a case, which is every case.
I've gotten stuff day of trial before and gotten continuances over it. Yep. Phone records, statements from co-defendants, things like that.
Right. So all we have, our recourse is, one, if we don't know, we don't know. I mean, that's where lawyer, talks about ethics and morals, and you have to hope that the people who are working in the prosecutor's office have ethics and morals and they do what they're supposed to do. But I wouldn't be starting this series and you guys wouldn't be following some of those cases if that weren't the case, right? So we know for a fact from Carrie Morrissey and from Lally or whoever in the Karen Reed case, I cannot keep track. I'm going to have to sit down and make a diagram of the people because I have to do that for my cases anyway. I mean, so if we don't know, we don't know, right? And if a case goes up on appeal, the only thing the appellate attorney knows is what's in the record. So again, like, recourse, if it's not in the record, at this point, which is what happened to the client I've got, then if we do know that they are turning stuff over to us, then you can file a motion to compel. But what else is there beyond that?
Right.
Well, if you don't file a motion to compel because you don't know that they have it until last minute, or if something gets destroyed, then kind of back to the whole filing a motion to dismiss pursuant to Brady. There's a case that I know right now where there was some discrepancy as to whether or not there was some bullet casings that were shot in a car, and that car is now destroyed. So
yeah, in that case, wow. Yeah, so
the basis of it,
so I told you guys, I think at the end of last stream, that we have a number of cases that are set for trial this year. And should they actually freaking go to trial? I have a feeling that there are several which will be live streamed. It would not be the first case out of Hillsborough County that is live streamed. I've seen several, including Trial TV went over the Trevor Summers case, or they re-aired it, and I worked on Trevor Summers. He was unpleasant. And then Squeegee of Justice had Elisa on his show twice. I was there the first time. So we do have cases that are coming up to trial, and that is one of them. And what I told you guys last week was that if those
10 minutes, this is
you gotta go.
Nope, you're good.
So what I told you guys last week was if any of the cases that we are working on are going to be streamed Trial TV Live, will be aware of that. And I will be able to discuss publicly known facts. And that's as far as I'll be able to go, because as you guys know, attorney-client privilege does actually apply to me, which is why you don't get all the good tea. Not that I have any on Sarah, really and truly. Like Sarah, I don't. I just don't.
Yeah, it's just kind of a waiting game until we find out whether they're going to trial or not. I'm pretty sure some of the cases that we talk about are definitely going to trial, but
Sam's frozen. That might be her calling you.
No,
she's frozen. Sam, you're frozen, dear.
Oh,
she's
no.
Frozen. But yeah, like she was saying, we can't.
And sometimes you can really tell which cases are gonna go to trial and which ones aren't, just based on the type of case it is, the type of evidence, and so on and so forth.
Right. There she is.
I'm back. I think I'm sitting next to my router. I need to get a thingy to be able to plug in. Sorry. I saw it freeze. There.
It froze on a really good picture, though.
Oh, good. That's always nice. Yeah, appreciate that. Okay, so Scotti, you need to go.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you being here.
And
when
thank you so much.
I definitely will.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you'll totally be back. It just happened to be a very last minute thing, because you were calling me because you were in the car.
I think
I didn't when you said you didn't have the girls, I was like, oh wait, do you want to come on stream tonight? So thank you so much.
No problem.
We appreciate you. And,
nice meeting you all.
And I'm sure I'll talk to you on Monday, right?
Yeah, probably tomorrow.
Right.
I'm sure I'll be talking to you as well.
Yeah, I will get that report that we discussed done.
All right.
I'll remind her.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Scotti.
guys.
All
No
right.
problem. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
He's great.
Let's see. Hi, guys. Okay. Barry Adams, I think you have your own conversation going on about Judge Bev, and I'm only catching pieces of it. Hi, Mom. I don't know if I sent you a text earlier today, but I don't know if I told you I was going on at 6 instead of 7:15. So sorry. Let's see. Okay. So I wanted to say, oh, look at Mom says hi, Squeegee. I have to teach her how to do the @ thingy. She figured out how to watch me on television. And what I tell everybody who's watching me on television is that was not the deal. That was not what I signed up for.
I watched you on television.
I was under the impression that I could not be any bigger than this.
I have you on two computers.
No.
Yeah.
That's unacceptable. Mom, everybody's saying hi to you. I have to teach her how to do the @ thing so that people's names pop up. And my dad asked me why his name had popped up and in orange, and I thought about it. And at the moment I didn't have an answer, and I was like, oh, people in the chat are tagging you.
Yeah.
So Dad, if you're still listening and your name pops up in orange, it's because somebody typed the @ symbol and typed in like a P, and your name popped up in a little box, and they clicked on it, and then they typed their comment. Same for you, Mom.
And if you're on a cell phone, it doesn't work. It works on
it doesn't work
computers.
on a phone. It only works on the computer. Yeah. Squeegee would like to know, Mom, if you are still reveling in the Buckeyes championship.
Ohio. You got to do your Ohio's if you haven't yet.
Mel says she only watches on her phone. She doesn't even get to watch on a computer. I have televisions in my apartment. I haven't turned them on in a couple of years because I either watch things, I stream everything. So I'm either watching from a laptop, an iPad, or my phone. Tanika, girl, you've also got 2 cameras going on, TV and comments on the laptop. Yeah. So Mom was asking me that, how does she chat if she's watching me on the TV? You have to have a second device.
Yeah. And
yes, she's still reveling in the championship. So for anyone who is maybe just joining us, I'm super excited to tell you that Tanika and I will be live streaming not next Saturday, but the one after that. So you'll want to mark your calendars.
Right? So what day it is? The 15th?
Because
is that correct, Tanika?
I'm fairly certain she could do my job better than I can. Really, and I'm not kidding. So I'm very excited for that conversation. Because every video I didn't catch her live last night. But as I'm listening to her videos or watching her videos, I type comments and then I have to keep editing them like I'm talking to her in real time. So I just was like, hey, could we do this for real?
I'll be in the chat watching.
Yes. And thank you. Yes, everybody, please hit the like button. I appreciate that so much.
Yes.
Everybody
come back and watch the replay. Leave us some comments.
Yeah. Everybody seems to be really excited. Leah, Trial TV Live, Tennis Girl, Mel. Awesome. So yeah, thanks guys. I'm super excited. Yeah, I think it'll be really fun because I'm like, it's that the equivalent of like me yelling at the screen or whatever. So this way we can just go ahead and do it in person. This would be awesome.
Yeah, it will be.
So yeah, I'm excited to do that. So that's
what's Tanika saying no about?
I don't know what she's saying no about.
Explain yourself, Miss Tanika. Why are you saying no?
If you haven't yet, will you please like the video or the stream? So because it's 7:25, Yeah, they found Sarah's notice of appeal was what was found. That's what she covered.
Found it.
Yeah, but like you kind of uncovered the whole thing, because I think you emailed me and I was like, I don't see it.
She
either.
called down there and everything, talking to them. Yeah, to find out what was going
Yeah,
on.
I know.
Yeah.
Which I'm telling you, that's why I think she could do my job better than I did. Because I don't like to talk to people that much.
I don't either.
So let's see. Therapist, it's a serious struggle to listen, to understand the words in my earballs while differentiating them from the words in my eyeballs and keep them straight. I get that. I feel you.
Too.
I hear you. That resonates in my soul.
Me too. Especially this week. I've been like on a cloud, just floating and watching the world below me.
I have to ask Scotti 500 times, like, is this the one that did this, or which one is this now? I need to make a chart. I desperately need to make a chart. And that federal wire fraud case I'm working on, is not playing nicely with my brain. It's all the digital stuff you never see, the IP addresses and strings of numbers and cache and all the tags and all the values, the hash values, all of that. All of that. There's so
I can't do that. No.
Scotti
never does those, right? Scotti never does those, right?
He's not able to work in federal court yet.
Good.
I think there's
I don't have to worry about working on that.
No, you won't. I think there's we looked into it, so I think there's a 2-year
I have time to learn everything then before we ever get that far.
Yeah, federal court's a pain anyway. Tanika says, hold on, Barry. I'm gonna come back to you in a second.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That's very sweet. I disagree, but okay. Barry says, I hate it when I unstaple a set of documents to scan in as one and mess up putting them back together so a standalone gets attached to something else. Yeah. Listen, sir, you have no idea.
Or when it's like in a booklet and then you're taking it in half to put it in a binder, and then you're like, wait a minute, it's not page numbered, it's section numbered, and then you're trying to figure out how it goes when you put it in a booklet. Yeah, I did that recently.
Yeah,
I understand, Barry.
So Barry's saying that's how that appeals notice got lost. It got misstapled. Yeah, really. Let's see. I'm just reading chat. Sorry. I'm like trying to catch up. Barry Adams types faster than I don't know. Did you learn touch typing in high school too? No, Mom, it's not too late for you to watch. You can still watch, and then you can go back and watch the beginning. And I'm impressed. She's texting me, and hold on, she's texting me and watching it.
That was financial papers, Mel. So
she says, "Is it too late?" No, I know. I'm sorry. It was. I didn't know that I was coming on at 6. I apologize. It was because Trial TV live stream was going to dump over into this one. And I apologize. Okay. And you can still watch and comment because we're still live right now at 7:28 p.m. Okay. So hold on. Therapist, I have to get to this one. I can make up songs about Super Bowl, Trial TV's cat.
Yeah.
But I can't tell you what the last objection was over. Yet I can tell you what someone in Minnesota is having for dinner next Tuesday. Again, I feel that deeply. I feel seen.
Yeah, and heard.
Kristen, I hope you feel seen because, I can tell you a lot of random crap, but nothing actually important. Okay, so let's go back to this. Okay, so Barry Adams is saying that the appeals notice for Sarah Boone got lost because it got misstapled. And Mel says she agrees. And Tanika says, that makes sense, Barry. But the clerk put a note on that she received it on 131. I'm wondering if it was received on 1218 but sent back with errors. Or the clerk came from the 6th Circuit and just doesn't know how to file anything. No, I thought that whole thing was very interesting, Tanika and Barry, about Sarah's notice of appeal. And one of the things I've been following to some degree, I found a channel that is highly entertaining for reading out like the Wade Wilson, all respect to the victims, but they're focusing on these crazy women who think he's the second coming when he's just a psychopath. And I 100% just lost my train of thought. Oh my God. I completely lost my thought right there in the middle.
I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, no, I lost it.
Oh,
I know what it was. Now I caught it back. I caught it again. So one of the things that I find very infuriating about the Wade wives, or the fans of Wade Wilson, is that they were like, we can file the appeal the next day, and then they'll go and they'll read a docket and they'll be like, well, so-and-so filed a notice of appeal, so that's his appellate attorney. And I'm like, no. The trial court attorney files the freaking notice of appeal. They're supposed to. Let me caveat that.
Yeah.
They're supposed to. And then they usually very quickly file a notice to withdraw. And that's how it goes. And Tanika figured out that wasn't what was happening. So yeah. Again, therapists, if I have a dime for every time I couldn't find one piece of paper and found it months later stapled to something totally unrelated. Can we talk about the clumps of unopened mail that are just in various...
Oh, no, I love mail. I have to open mine as soon as I get it.
No, nothing ever good comes in the mail, really, except for Christmas cards.
So
my habit is to go by my mailbox is not... It's on the property here, but so like I'll stop and I'll get whatever's in there and I'll shove it into whatever bag I'm carrying around, and I have like tote bags full of just, depends on whose case, it's just full of crap and they're scattered everywhere. So like the property management emailed me and she's like, we left this on your door. I was like, oh, okay. Well, if you email it to me, there's a better chance I'll see it. So I signed it. Trial TV Live says that they're sorry, Mom, for my starting earlier. Barry learned typing, not in high school, but his grandmother taught him because she thought boys should know that kind of stuff too. That's fantastic. Tennis Girl likes this time. Oh, Kristen wants to know the YouTube channel. I'm watching the Wade Wilson stuff. It's Melissa Jade. She's freaking hilarious. She and her friends are doing dramatic readings of the messages that are sent to Wade Wilson. Melissa is a very big advocate for Gannon Stout, who was unalived by his stepmother, Letitia. And so she's very fascinated by sort of the psychology, right, of the people surrounding. And I was looking for some of the shenanigans, but I'm like, I need somebody who's like talking about this the same way I'm feeling about it. And I stumbled on her channel, and she's got her friends up there, and they're reading these messages in like different accents and stuff.
We should do something like that. That'd be fun.
Oh my God. It's so freaking entertaining. Her name is Melissa Jade, Jade, and that's the name of her channel. And it's just really, because true crime all the time, because I work in it, because I've chosen to become hopefully a part of the conversation on YouTube. It's dark, you guys. Like, it's when you live with this 24 hours a day, you have to find some levity in it somewhere. And it's never meant to disrespect a victim or anything like that, but sometimes you just have to find humor within the darkness, or you will absolutely lose your mind.
That's why I like our channel, your channel.
Yeah,
that's why I like being on here. It kind of breaks everything up because I work on it all week long between watching trials and taking notes, and now with what I'm going to be doing with you and Scotti. So it's like, this is like the breather. Saturday nights are breathers, and I really like it. So yeah.
Oh, sorry, Kristen. I just hadn't caught up with the chat. So it's Melissa Jade. That's her channel. There you go. Yeah, there you go. I just love them. It's like when I put them
it yet. I need to.
Mads, you aren't late. We were really early.
Yeah, I sent you a message, Mads, but you may have not gotten it yet.
It's like listening to her streams, right? And they don't come on camera most of the time, and I don't blame them because they don't feel like getting fixed up, but they have done. And one of them's got this Siamese cat that just absolutely howls in the background, which is I find to be amusing. But it's like it's like you're sitting around gossiping with your friends, the way these people, the way they kind of do this. And I've been highly entertained by it because I can't find anything to watch on television and I need some laughs. Let's see. Therapist says absolutely, and you will never please all the people. You are not pizza. Well, that's correct. So yeah, Pablo jumpsuit Pablo does Wade. I appreciate Pablo.
I've never
but
seen him.
He pauses a little too much for me, whereas I appreciate him though. I do. Let's see. Therapist, I wouldn't bother watching his trial. He's an awful, evil, horrible person. It's just the crazy women who saw his tattooed Joker face and decided he's amazing, and he's not. He is a violent predator.
I listened to the podcast.
The crime is
I did not watch it.
The crime is horrid. What he did is horrid.
Yeah.
But what also freaked me out about that case, I think I told you this, Jenny, was that where it happened, I think it was in Cape Coral, but where he was caught, like where his fiance, by the way, he's got 10 of those. Everybody he talks to is engaged to him within 48 hours. But where the law enforcement was trying to pick him up was in Fort Myers, at a Joe's Crab Shack, which I've eaten at many times. And then when they showed some footage, like some body camera footage, I was like, oh my God, I used to have a studio that for my former profession that I rented on that same street. And the bar that he went to that night, thank God I never went to it, but I drove past it daily for years. So part of me is just like, wow, I left Fort Myers in 2011 to go to Miami to go to law school, but just to have that familiarity, and be like in a different, I'm obviously way older, but like in a different life, a different time, different place, I could have ended up at that bar that night.
Well, it's like the case that happened right down the road, Mike and I, where they found the person unalived in his basement a couple weeks ago. My husband and I were coming home from my father-in-law's, like for last. Yeah. And I drove by it. It's literally like 5-6 minutes down the road. It's on like our main road, and you turn off of it, like where our house is. It's just a little road that you turn off, like a little side road, and it was on that road. And we turned on the main road. It's like a side road, main road, that kind of thing. So we turned off of it, and I'm like, oh, that's the road where the M happened. And then, a few more steps down, you're like maybe a little over 2 miles, if even that, is where we live. So 2.5 miles down the road, that happened. So it's just freaky, when you hear stuff in your town and your state, but when it happens literally. And then my older son told me the same thing happened, like right across, like if this is the road and that's that turn, well, on this road, there's a house like right here where that same thing happened to a family many years ago. The house is like in shambles. For some reason, they won't tear it down. They found bodies in that house. So I'm like, what is it with that part? I'll stay back here. I'll stay not 2 miles down the road.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it's freaky. Yeah.
Mel, I would like to think you are correct that I would not have bought any of what he was putting down. He was just insane. Yeah, no.
I just don't see
I don't see the appeal. He's an absolute idiot. He's tall. People think he's great because he's tall.
Yeah.
Kristen and Aaron are showing lots of love for each other in my chat, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Mad says it's getting a little scary now everywhere in our little place. We're getting so many red room type things. Mads, I apologize. First of all, I understand you left a comment and I never saw it. I did not delete it. I've never deleted anyone's comments. Jenny told me. I appreciate you leaving a comment. I encourage everyone to leave comments. I didn't see it and I definitely didn't delete it. So
yeah, I told her more than likely it was YouTube up to its weird things that it does.
I never saw it.
I'm pretty sure I saw it. I'm pretty sure I did and commented, but it might have been a different week. But yeah, YouTube does that sometimes. We don't have any control over it, unfortunately. So
Kristen, if you and Aaron are going to live within proximity, then I want a spot on the lawn too, please. Yeah, Mel says he's like 6'6" and a pure scumbag. Wow. 100%. So let's see. I wonder this often, Mads. With social media, we're just more aware of what's the crazies have always been around. We're just more exposed to it now. I wonder about that, like if that's true, if it's that we're more aware of it and it's always been this bad, but part of me thinks it's not always been as bad as it is.
70% maybe of that.
Yeah. You know, some of these cases that I've got are just like I think about all the things that I used to do in my earlier life when I loved to go to live music. When I lived in Dallas, I would go listen to live music constantly, like either in Dallas or in Austin. You know, movie theaters, malls. Do they even have do we have malls anymore? I don't even know. All of these places, I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And so a lot of the viewers of this channel know that I did go to Taylor Swift in Paris. And it was a venue that was on the smaller side for her tour. It only held 40,000 people. And I thought there is no happier, safer place to be on the planet than at a Taylor Swift concert.
So you thought.
And not a month or two later did someone try to destroy that. And it's just like, well, I really don't feel like going anywhere now, you know. And it just kind of I said to Scotti the other day, as California, and you know, always thoughts, prayers to everyone who is suffering from any of the ongoing tragedies, plane crashes, fires, all the things. But I was telling him the other day that I was super glad that I did as much as I did when I was in my 20s, and I got to see all the iconic things while they still existed, as they were. And
I think it's too much growing up.
I
was pretty sheltered.
I got to go a lot of places and see a lot of things. And I'm really grateful that I had that. That I had that for me going on in my life at that time. Therapist says, I swear I can't think of one single place or activity I could go where I haven't watched some crime story that happened there. Everything could potentially be ruined. I'm scared to drive on the highway because I've had 2 highway shootings.
Wait a minute, you have?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've not been shot at. I have cases.
Right. Oh, okay. I was like, wait a minute, I thought maybe you were like in the situation
driving down the highway, shooting at each other. It's and yeah, like I just can't anymore. Okay. Mad says, same Sam, I choose inside my own walls. We had a guy block our only bridge the other day and threatened to blow it up. It's just great. Yeah. So,
Wow.
The squeegee says Mads you up in the 24/7 news cycle and you have to really fight to catch a breath. That's what that was my long and winding point, right? Is that in this work that I do, where I joke a lot about like what is wrong with people and why is he so stupid and why this and why that, and some people belong in jail. That's why you will see people in law enforcement or people, attorneys or investigators, you kind of have to find little places where you can poke at, and all these women for Wade Wilson are what I could poke at, and I feel horrid for his victims, and I'm so glad he's off the street.
Yeah.
So anyway, oh, this girl says her mom loves the phrase I coined Walmart murder aisle, and she says it all the time. Well, tell your mother I appreciate that very much. I've decided I have been saying shopping in the murder aisle at Walmart for years because it pops up in the freaking Discovery I've been reviewing for a decade. And I'm like, why is this happening? Why are they, don't they watch true crime? Don't they know better than
they must, well, they skip over that part.
But I feel like to appease the YouTube gods, we have to change it to the incident aisle. But I've decided this too, that the aisle has pre-incident supplies on one side and cleanup post-incident supplies on the other. I have a little video that I'm hoping Aaron will help me with that addresses that. It's just a little slide thingy I put together trying to be funny. Okay, so the moon, Aaron got kicked out. Well, kick yourself back in, woman. You're the engineer. There she is. Let's see. Squeegee says, meanwhile, the moon and Venus are putting on a show right now. If you can, go check it out. Absolutely. Most of the news is fear mongering.
Here last month.
Let's see. Therapist says we have to remember that just because our worlds are encompassed with crime and scary things, the actual world isn't as saturated as it may seem. Trust your heart, but take your brain with you. That's excellent advice, Kristen.
Thanks,
I
Kristen.
love that very much. Let's see.
Red Rum Aisle.
Barry, you are just too much. OnlyFan. Where else would I get duct tape, hacksaw, trash bags, and bleach? Well, if you're my client, you might walk in there with evidence. You might walk into the Home Depot with some evidence on you, and you know,
and smile for the camera.
That helps, right? And then your co-defendant calls 911 because he thinks you left him. So the police come, arrest co-defendant, and then also arrest your own defendant. Aaron, I don't know why you keep getting kicked out. You're showing on my screen. I mean, I got kicked out earlier.
Yeah.
Do we love the internet? No, we don't. Oh, I love this. We'll call it the Red Room Aisle on YouTube. And she says, and she always says, I like what your YouTube friend said. Like, we know each other personally. Well, absolutely, we know each other personally.
We're family.
Yeah, it's great to know each and every one of you. And
hey, Karen Cole.
Hi, Karen Cole. I am sorry you just got notified. YouTube hates us recently, as does apparently the internet. And I started early tonight. I did put up a notice, but we
had a special guest, so make sure you go back and watch.
Yeah, make sure you go back and watch the beginning. Because my friend was on. Always be aware of your surroundings. Know where the exit routes are. I'm not paranoid, really. Yeah, reality, I think that any of us. I think that any of us who are watching this. Well, I work in it, and then I decided I watched a lot of it, but then decided that I had to jump into the conversation because so much hate was flying for the defense, and along with that went a lot of ignorance and also just misinformation, not knowing, not understanding. And I am fine if you hate the defendant, but I want you to understand the process that they're entitled to. Right. So,
we're not always saying the defense is 100%
no,
innocent or not guilty.
No.
We just say that people think, oh my God, you work with the defense. No, we don't work. We work for the defense. We work to try to help them get a fair trial.
It's just part of the system. It's part of the system.
And I'm hearing that now that I said that what I'm doing, now that I said I'm working, with the defense, they're like, what do you mean you're working with the defense? I'm like, that's my job.
It's just part of this. It's part of the system. Yeah.
As soon
as Scotti can land long enough to get you started on everything.
Text time. And I've been reading some of the files, so.
I know I need to push stuff over to you. Mel says she got a notification for a change for the correct time. Mel.
Wow.
And you showed up. That's impressive. We're proud. Yeah. We're super proud of you. Yeah. Mel says yes. Let's see. A therapist, Scotti, who was my guest just a few minutes ago, is having Jenny is going to be his legal assistant, basically. So she's going to handle phone calls and filings and
the damn Margaret
and scheduling. Yeah, she's going to be Margaret.
like in the boom.
So she's able to do that because we do everything on the internet. So
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's see.
I like Matt's comment. Yes. Put Matt's up there.
I'm sorry. The justice system is the justice system no matter what side. Yeah. For sure. And I just want to keep sort of trying to bring some enlightenment to how unbalanced things are. And I'm never an advocate that people should not suffer consequences for the things they've done. I just want it to be done fairly. And no matter what I want, that's not going to happen. And that's just a money issue because the government, the state, it's so weird though, right? When you really think about it, because the state's attorney is paid for by the state, and the public defender is paid for by the state. But the public defender's office has 1/10 of the resources that the state does. And then as you go down the chain and you get onto people like me, who I work through court appointed private attorneys, that they have to fight to get me on their case. And literally, I had an attorney that had to fight it out in the Sixth Circuit, shocking, to get me on a case. Even in federal court, they say, oh, I had one magistrate who does the budgeting for a federal case say to an attorney, well, when I was trying cases, I didn't have an investigator, so I don't think you need one either. And the attorney's like, you're giving me 6 terabytes worth of data and you expect me to do this by myself? I mean, times have changed, and so no, I'm not necessarily out there like looking for clues on the street. I say it all the time. My job is almost more of being an analyst because that's what I'm doing.
Right. And then they don't want to pay the experts what they should pay them.
Jenny is the anti-Margaret. We won't hear any damn it, Jenny's. No, plus Scotty's not like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Barry says, can you please review how court-appointed counsel works, how a case goes from PD to OCC to court-appointed private counsel, what sort of gears have to click to move that along? Yeah, I will explain that. Legal-minded friends, Karen Cole says, breaking news on the Ellen Green case. I'm not following that one, but the medical examiner wants to change his manner of death to homicide. Is that the mom that was unalived by the son stabbing, but the father had been unalived in Oklahoma with a gun. Interesting. Okay, so there are many innocent people charged in crimes. If it wasn't for a defense, they wouldn't get the justice they deserve. Not always the case, but innocent before guilty in most cases anyway. Well, I invite everyone to take a moment, right, and sit down and think about what if they were mistakenly arrested or their child did something.
Yeah.
And what do you want to have happen? And that's why I want to go over the Khalif Browder docuseries in whatever way I'm able to figure that out, and why I also want to talk about the issues in the Emily Bazelon book, Charged. So again, those are works in progress. I have to do a new poll because I didn't do the poll right. I only apparently gave you one select, like you could only vote one time. I don't have an answer for how we're going to do that. And for people who are not interested but enjoy coming to this channel, never fear, because I think I'm just going to do those as like additional streams and not this main one, because it's an experiment, right? And I don't want everyone to feel like they have to, or if they don't, they're not going to be a part of the conversation. So it's like an optional thing, and it's an experimental thing. Mm-hmm. It's a work in progress. Right. Mel says, please click the like button and subscribe. Yes, please. Yes, please. We would appreciate it so much. Okay, so Barry Adams, to answer your question.
Old case.
Okay, so a case goes to the public defender, and let's say that you have a twin who does bad things and is now your co-defendant because you did bad things together. So the public defender is going to say, well, we've represented your twin previously, so you are going to get kicked out. We have a conflict. We can't represent you, but we're going to represent your twin. So then there is something in Florida called the Office of Regional. There's another thing in there. Conflict Counsel. I just call it ORC. So Office of Regional Conflict Counsel, which I believe is, well, one of my friends, the last time I checked in with her, she was working in ORC. So maybe I'll see if I can get her to come on and talk about it. That's like the next level. And I believe those are attorneys who have private practices, but they also maybe have contracts with ORC. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, if there's a conflict there, let's say they represented your victim in something, then you get conflicted out of there. And once that happens, you then go to the court will appoint you a lawyer, which is what we all know. Sarah was appointed several attorneys. They don't just pluck those attorneys out of thin air. What we were talking about earlier with Scotti about being on the JAC list and being on the registry for your circuit is how that happens. So you have to be a willing defense attorney who submits all the required documentation, not only to the JAC, but to your circuit's registry, which we're running out of death qualified attorneys in Hillsborough County. We just don't have them enough to go around. And I just picked up another death case, I think. So I've got like 5 now. I think I have 5 right now. So we are literally running out of death qualified attorneys because there are so many cases that require them right now. And there's too many conflicts floating around, which is just insane. But anyway, so a private defense attorney meets all the requirements, says, hey, I want to be on this list. They get a contract with the Justice Administration Commission, the JAC, and agree to work for the paltry sum that the JAC is willing to pay. Now, on the big cases, like the capital cases, they want to pay you $25,000 as a defense attorney. And then they pay for people like me, but only with court order, and I'm paid hourly. and JAC reviews every single thing I do for reasonableness. And if they think that what I did wasn't reasonable, then they can say, we don't want to pay you for that.
Kind of like insurance companies.
Yeah, I had it happen to me in federal court. They pushed back on a federal indictment. It was 50 pages long on a RICO case with 16 co-defendants. They're like, an hour is sufficient for an indictment. I wrote back and I was like, really?
With all the different people in it? Oh my God.
Let me share this with you, because it took a whole lot longer than that. I mean, yeah, I can read it, obviously. Right. But to like figure out where my person fell within this. Yeah. And so when I wrote back, they guess who's
Henry.
Yes, he's come out. Yeah, so I mean, somebody else who's never done my job is deciding how much time is reasonable for me to do my job. I love that so much for me. Ellen Greenberg. Oh, okay. Yeah, right? Yeah.
The cold case? Okay.
Yeah. Right? Oh, thank you, Tennis Girl, for coming, and love to see you back. Barry says, I would love where we could cover books and works you can recommend. Yeah, I would love that too, because there's things I read or watch and I want to talk about them, like literally have a conversation. So Barry, Aaron and I, Aaron at Charles TV Live and I are, well, let's just face it, she's the brains. So she's helping me. We're looking into options for you. And so I want to make that a part of the channel, because you guys see what you see on YouTube and the lawyers break it down for you and you watch the trials. I'm here to kind of shine a light on what happens before you get to trial and what happens after law enforcement and before you get to trial and all the shady crap that goes on. But I also, in addition to talking about my own experiences, which one of my cases I'm going to be doing a podcast about called Not Another True Crime Podcast with my friend Bethany. As soon as I find the rest of the files, I just found all the photos in a Dropbox that I forgot I had. So that's coming. Then I would like, as part of this channel, to not only talk about the cases you guys are watching and sort of my take on that, but also weave in wherever possible my experiences and other content that is not, like the Khalif Browder docuseries, like the book. But I understand that not everybody wants to do that. So everything I do is a little bit fly by the seat of my pants, and I make it up as I go along, fake it till I make it kind of thing. So I'm always a work in progress. The channel is always a work in progress. The streams are always a work in progress. And they usually depend on what I was able to get done during the week, because I don't have a staff of any kind helping me to do anything. Oh, Lord. Let's see. Okay. Barry Adams. JAC sounds like my CSSD, and they push back on everything. It's a policy thing. I get why. And once you can demonstrate to them in their language on their forms, they're okay mostly. I had an experience at the law office where they challenged us on $1,000 worth of billing because the order hadn't been signed, but we'd already had to go to court. And I took the language that they love to spit back at you and wrote that into the response and sent it back to them, and they paid. Karen Cole, are you contracted and they tell you only have X amount of hours? That is harsh. So I am a vendor. I own my own agency. Last week I did a recap of how to be a PI in Florida, like how that comes to be. So what I had to do, Karen, is I have a company in Florida. I had to create a company. I had to be a licensed private investigator. Then I had to get another license to be an agency. Then I go and I apply to the state to get paid by the state. And then I go to the JAC and I applied to get a contract with the JAC. that means I can become a vendor. Once I'm on that vendor list, then a private defense attorney, whether they are court appointed or are working where they're paid and then they are declared indigent for costs, like we were talking about at the beginning of the stream, what happens then is that attorney's office has to write a motion, and the JAC has templates right on their website, which is super helpful, and most of the lawyers don't know that, which is okay. So the lawyer's office has to file a motion with very specific language requesting like 100 hours. And that motion and proposed order is emailed to the JAC. They usually send back we take no position on this email, which you then have to attach to this entire PDF situation, and then you e-file it. I may have some of the order of this mixed up because things have changed since I had to do the e-filing. But it then gets sent to the court, and in Hillsborough, the judge usually just signs it and I'm good to go. So once I have that order, then I can start billing on the case, but I can't bill to the JAC until I've hit 10 hours at a minimum. It used to be 13, which was just so odd. They won't let me work more than 10 hours a day or 50 hours a week unless it's for trial preparation or the lawyer has requested it. However, it just, sometimes I only get 50 hours on a case. Sometimes I get 100. So like Scotti, for example, he's been getting me 100 to start. If we know we're going to trial, we start at like, maybe I'll start at 100 hours. And then by the time we're through the case, I'm at several hundred hours in.
I was going to ask you that. Like you add
but
on.
like I said, on for one of the death penalty cases that's coming up for trial this year, it's been set for trial 6 freaking times over the last however many years. I mean, he's been in the county jail since 2018, and one of the attorneys is complaining like, oh, I haven't heard from Sam on whatever, and the client's in the jail, and I'm like, there's only so much I can do. They're not going to keep paying me to do this. There's nothing else for me to do.
Right.
Let's see. Yeah, Barry Adams, the non-pro-tunk thing happens. Okay, so freelancers, gig workers, 1099ers, your ability to snap receipts as fast as you get them, and your tax accountant are your best friends. Listen, my tax accountant, thank
on my own,
the lucky stars for her. I've known her for over 20 years since I moved to Florida, the business I used to have. She's like, okay, we'll train you on QuickBooks. I'm like, okay. So I tried it. And then it cost me a whole bunch of money for them to undo what I did in QuickBooks. And I'm like, can we just not pretend that I can even do this? Because
I keep it all written down. Like I'm going to have to like redo it for this and see what all you have to talk to you about that. But it's different than my businesses I've had. So
yeah. So Karen Cole says, so you have to work with no expenses until you bill. Yeah, but they're not going to pay for anything they don't want to pay for. So they do not pay, for example, with an attorney, they won't pay for paralegal work. So you have to get very creative with the way in which you bill. They won't pay for supplies, including the hard drives, cloud storage, applications, software, whatever you want to call it.
pocket.
I now own 2 iPhones. They're not gonna, you do not get reimbursed for very much from the JAC. They're very particular about that, even with attorneys. But like if you have watched Sarah Boone, you know that Mauricio Padilla and Billy traveled for her case, and you have to get their approval to pay for that. If I take a case out of my circuit and that incurs extra expenses for me, they don't have to pay me that if they don't want to, if I don't write it properly.
How long does it take to get onto the vendor list?
It took me, well, it took me 6 to 8 months, I think, to get it all done. Part of it was because I The name I wanted, I do have a great CPA therapist. I do. Like I said, I've known her 20 years. She's got the patience of a freaking saint.
I used to have one, but she passed away, so I do it all myself now.
Yeah, no,
it's not fun.
Never trust me with. Just don't.
Yeah.
No, she's fantastic. She lost half her house in a couple of hurricanes ago, not this past year, but I want to say, did we have one called Ian that was particularly bad that hit Naples and Cape Coral? Anyway, she's great. And I love her very much. And she deals with me. So she's a very, very, very patient woman. So yeah, that's how it works. Oh, and it takes a couple of weeks for me to get paid. Now, if I work on the federal side, I get paid much more money, but it has taken them 6 to 8 months to pay me. And when I tell you that, I am not joking. So I had to call the electric company and I was like, look, this is what I do, and this is how I get paid. And I also had to write this extensively to the landlords. This is what I do. This is how I get paid. I have no control over when I get paid from the federal government. And I screenshotted a bunch of like, here's on the federal side, here's the amount of money they've agreed that they will pay me. Here's how much I've invoiced for. Here's where I've done it. And I literally had zero money for 4 months. Wow. They were ready to, I got an eviction notice, the first one I've ever had. They were ready to cut the electric off, all the things. And then all of a sudden, a huge chunk of money comes, but it's in checks from the United States Treasury. And so then you put all the money in and you're like, wow, good money for about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Because then all of the money just flies right back out the door, because not only are you paying your bills, you're paying all the late fees on the bills you did not pay. Yeah. And so the landlords, I had a very, very rocky time in a year where I spent a lot of time on a federal case, and it took them 6 months plus to pay me.
Wow.
The JAC, however, does pay much faster, and they do, like I just wake up and it's in my account, and it's usually within 2 weeks. Okay, so let me not go on and on. Therapist says, what a bunch of bullspit. Only the government and any other company has 60 to 90 days to pay for services before they can be litigated against. Yeah, well, I don't pay for my services within 60 to 90 days. But good luck filing a lawsuit against me, because as I mentioned earlier, I've got, somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000 worth of law school loans. So, yeah, hi.
I heard him.
Uh-huh. The timing for him has been really, really weird. The past couple of streams, like as soon as I close the stream, he's out here. Yep. Hello, sir. So, okay. We're starting the Power of the Prosecutor series. I just wanted to read you guys one thing real quick. We talked about a lot of different things, including the state's attorney and Scotti's experience from a day-to-day basis, and you will see more of him as we go forward. And now you can put a face to the name. Okay, so this is from the Alec Baldwin civil suit. It just says, and it's 73 pages long. Don't worry. You're getting 2 sentences. The highest duty of all who investigate, charge, and prosecute criminal cases in the state of New Mexico is to fairly and impartially apply the state's awesome powers. Criminal prosecutions are to be guided by the search for truth and justice, not to pursue personal or political gain or harass the innocent. And I liked that very much.
Yeah.
So, Power of the Prosecutors needs some Rage Against the Machine music.
I love Rage. I'm just telling him.
Yeah, I know you do. OnlyFan, if you want to work on some AI, it's the Power of the Prosecution. That's what we're talking about. Everybody say hi to Sir Henry.
Sir Henry.
He is still looking off his feet, so we're going to be finding
a new vet.
Yeah. He got all new food, new litter box, all the thing, fish oil, all the things. And I eat peanut butter out of the jar. He gets salad, plain yogurt, kitty kibble, canned food, limited ingredient, all the things, right? Yeah. And I eat peanut butter out of the jar. Hey, Jason, aka Dr. Shrinklet. How are you, sir?
Oh, that's Dr. Shrinklet. Okay.
Yeah.
I know who he is.
Yeah. He and I went to college together and Paris together. Yeah. So yeah, the power of the prosecution. That's what I'm naming the next series of videos. And probably what we're going to do is dip in and out of things as cases come along. Are you in college in Paris right now, Jason?
No way, really?
No, he's not.
No.
That's a lie.
No way.
That's a lie. Yes,
he's
Henry is beautiful. He's got he's got extensive ear furnishings. Did you know that the fur inside a cat's ear is called ear furnishings?
I didn't until you said it. And they never talked about that at the vet hospital. We never said that. So
I don't know where the hell I picked that. I do not know where I picked that up. Oh, therapist, Dr. Shrinklet is what Jason was calling himself. You all are in the exact same state. Listen,
anywhere but
therapist, Kristen, meet Jason. I think y'all would be really great friends with one another. Hi, Leah. Hello. I think you guys would actually get along really freaking well, which would be hilarious. I know I only know a little bit of Kristen from Child TV's live streams where we've both been on at the same time, but I know enough about her humor, and I certainly know enough about Jason's, and they both are therapists, so have at it. You're in the same state. I don't think you're in the same city, but you're in the same state. All right, I have prattled on forever. It feels like forever and ever and ever. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to dip our toes into the power of the prosecution, which I think is really relevant with Karen Reed's retrial coming up. Karen Reed's a really obvious choice for this. And as I was talking about earlier, there's very much an interweaving between law enforcement misconduct and the prosecution, but not always.
Right.
Karen Reed, and now apparently what I'm learning about the Russ case, which I'm not going to go back over because you've heard it all a gazillion times, is that it often really does originate with law enforcement. I was thinking that I was going to treat those things separately, but now I don't know that that's even possible. I'm not sure how I want to wrap
they kind of weave into each other.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah, especially with her case and with Alec, with the suit he's got now, with his criminal complaint, his civic, with his complaint that he now has against him. It's like it's all combined with all 9 defendants. It's crazy.
Yeah. That'll be interesting. I'm really interested, honestly, in what happens with Karen Reed, because
it's coming up.
It's not even so much anymore about, sadly, rest in peace, John O'Keefe. It's about what the state has done to Karen Reed and the absolute mockery they have made out of the legal system. In my personal opinion, it's my channel, it's my personal opinion that they need to recuse that judge, drop that suit, say they're sorry, and walk away. And they need to apologize to John O'Keefe, frankly.
Yeah.
So we will talk about Karen Reed. I know you guys follow all this stuff. Barry says Karen Reed isn't on retrial. Retrial is the state and Judge Bev on trial. Yeah, really.
Yeah. It should never been retried after it. She should be held accountable. She didn't even explain to the jurors like anything. It's like
the BS that has gone on. What I can only say is a conspiracy at this point between law enforcement and the prosecution in the Commonwealth. And honestly, I believe Bev may be in on it too. I don't know.
I feel so bad for his family because they're like, you know, they're having to go through this again and they're not getting anywhere because of all this crap, you know?
I mean, did you look at my thumbnail for the video?
For
It's got
today's?
a hand with a cell phone that says "House long to
Yeah.
die in cold on it."
Yeah, that one's still like, I don't know how they. We'll have to talk about that as it.
So we're gonna we'll definitely address what you guys are watching as cases go along. I have cases set for trial. Whether they will or will not happen, I have absolutely no idea and no control over. So my week kind of dictates how much prep I do for a stream. But I think we're going to keep our eye on what's happening with Karen Reed. And if you guys feel like there's prosecutorial or law enforcement misconduct in any of the other cases that you're aware of, let us know.
Yeah. Put in the comment after the video.
Put it in the comments.
In the replay, I mean.
So Karen Cole says that law enforcement should send a warrant to iPhone to get that info. So they can send a warrant to Apple to compel that information.
Well, the weird thing was out of, what was it, like 4,000 text messages?
4,000 searches, and that was
searches,
the only one that was deleted. Yeah, that's just crazy. Karen Cole says, "Oh, no notice came up. I clicked, missed the thumbnail. I changed the stream. I also went through the entire channel yesterday and I redid a lot of the thumbnails, and then I made playlists. Like the first 5 are just me basically having conversations with you guys, and then I've switched over to like trying to like I put all the digital cell phone ones together, and then I made the thumbnail like all one color, like be the same color, and I put the parts and the dates. So and now I'm doing that with this as well. I'm figuring it out, folks. Barry says, I can feel misconduct in my bones better than I can in an approaching rainstorm. Yeah, really.
I know when it's going to rain because the bottom of my right foot starts itching like crazy. It's done it when I started when I was in the Army, and I told people, I would say, we're not gonna be doing that tomorrow, and they're like, I'm like, my foot is itching like crazy, believe me, we're not going to be doing that tomorrow. And they're like, okay, whatever. The next morning, okay, so we're gonna do this tomorrow instead. I'm like, told you. And they'd be like, Jenny, is your foot itching today? I'm like, no, sorry, we're gonna be out there tomorrow.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was funny.
So it's an ongoing struggle for me, for my job, amongst many other of the struggles, but one of them is now looking much more closely, to the extent that I can, into law enforcement and their probable cause affidavits and their warrants, which we've talked about are overly broad, and the testing. We're having issues on the testing of the narcotics that are seized, and the list goes on and on. So I try to bring in some of my experiences with some of what you're watching, and then also some other content like books and docuseries and podcasts. Okay, so there's 2 things I can smell: the ozone of an oncoming thunderstorm, and I can smell the thunderstorm too.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. So I'm going to redo my poll because everybody voted for the docuseries. I said documentary. It's a series. I'm working on it. A way for us to be able to view at least parts of it together. It's a work in progress. The book, again, everything's optional. The book is available used from Amazon, Kindle from Amazon, hard copy. I have no affiliate links. I did put her website in the description of the video. Yeah, Barry, I didn't know that I screwed up the poll like that some people would vote for both until Erin explained that to me last night.
I was wondering why you put it in there. I thought maybe she didn't want to put that in.
Freaking know. I thought you could pick as many options as you wanted. I was proud of myself for even thinking of it in the first place. So I'm it's going to be a redo on the poll, okay? and nobody has to be committed to anything. I'm just trying to gauge whether or not there's any interest at all, because if there's not, then I'm not going to put the time into it.
Right.
But if there's even one or two people who want to pay attention, then I want to do it because I like having the conversations. Absolutely. Kristen, therapist, when you come on, we just do trivia for the first time. I'm good with that. I told you it was your choice, whatever you wanted to do. Hi, Krista, limited edition. Welcome. Hey. I'm about to wrap this up because we've been on for a long time.
Make sure you go back and do the replay, Krista. We had a special guest on today.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. And don't forget, you guys, in 2 weeks, my guest will be Tanika. Tanika's 2 cents. I know you know her. I know you love her. At some point when therapist feels like it, she'll come on. We'll do some Gen X style trivia because I don't know any true crime trivia. All right. So I think that's it. We're going to talk about bad prosecutors. Mel, I hope you're healing well. Median hours allotted to extra degree felony by JAC. It used to be that they would start out, like, even for a first degree felony, at like 50. Now I tell the lawyers to stop doing that, because real quick, and then I'll shut up and let everybody go on about their business. For example, they changed something. So the reading rate now is I can bill 1 hour for 30 pages. It does not take me an hour to read 30 pages, but the writing I do is really extensive. So, and my editing. So like I eat up the time there versus just like the reading. So they used to just give me like 50 hours. Okay. Well, if you break that out by number of pages, I could eat 50 hours up in barely getting through one police report. So now, because I get discovery that's in the thousands of pages, or like I've got one that has 77 pages, so I can't even bill on it because there's not enough for me to bill on. And the attorney is complaining that I didn't do anything. I'm like, there's nothing to be done exactly. Like, it is what it is on that one. So, one Amish person, Celebrate, exactly, is going to leave that in the dust. That's correct. Sorry, I think I have Henry Fur stuck to me. But yeah, so I've had to make them, the attorneys, I've started asking them to start me at higher and higher amounts, because if I truly billed just for the reading, I'd eat up every last hour I had within days. So I have to sort of sprinkle it out, and it's getting more detailed, and they dictate what I can do and what I can't do. And they decide if the time I took to do something is reasonable. And their latest dictate is you have to tell them how many pages your report is.
That's stupid. That's stupid.
Yep.
Everybody does things at a different pace. Like you can read a page a lot faster than I can.
I can read really. I can read
really fast, but I can't comprehend it that fast.
No, I can't comprehend it all but I can skim through a ton of information really fast, figure out what needs to be done. But I write extremely detailed reports with like clickable tables of contents. Right. And I've written 75-page reports. I've written 10-page reports. It depends. Right. Krista, we hope you are feeling well. Barry says, so JAC doesn't have preset hours per se. It's the attorneys who are asking for it, so they need to be educated, which I'm sure they're, right. So I have one attorney who keeps giving me mitigation work, which pays more than private investigator work, but he's not giving me. JAC only wants to pay for mitigation in certain situations. They want you to be qualified as a mitigation specialist, which I could be, but I've chosen not to. Because I don't want to do mitigation work. And the attorney, I'm like, you're the only person that asked me to do this, And he's like, well, I thought you were getting paid the mitigation rate. I'm like, no, they won't pay for that at this level of a case. It has to be a certain kind of case. You have to be designated as a mitigation specialist, which I have a bachelor's in psychology, and then I'm a licensed investigator. I can meet the requirements. I don't want to do that. And, you know, he's irritated with me that I don't want to do this records gathering. But the truth of the matter is, it's a waste of my time because I have to loop the attorneys in anyway. They have to send documentation to DCF or whoever it is that I'm trying to get this confidential information from. So I just printed like instructions for his assistant, which of course she never read. And I'm still stuck like emailing agencies asking for information I know they're not going to give me, only to turn around and talk to the lawyer about it. But what am I going to do? Submit a bill for, I bill on the 10th of the hour. That's every 6 minutes. So I'm going to have, you know, an endless amounts of 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. That does not add up to money that even meets the amount you're allowed to bill. I can't bill till I hit a certain amount.
Right.
But also it's not enough to live off of. And
Right.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. Mad says she has an eye issue. She reads, she wishes she could read as much as she used to. Mad. So what I started doing, I don't read books anymore, especially, but audiobooks are fantastic. And as I've mentioned,
I can't do audiobooks. You know why? Because I like to have my own, like when I read a book, I used to be able to read 2 books a week. Like I used to read them boom, boom, boom. And I got into the habit of like getting series, and then like one series would end and then another series would like pick up. So I'd be reading like 3 or 4 series. I like vampires, like, and I'd have like 3 different vampire series going. And my husband would be like, "How do you know which one it is?" I said, "Because it's something I love." So I would know exactly, like one book would end, another book would come out. Like, and so I had all 3 series going at the same time. But I like to put my own voice with them, so that that character has that voice, that character has that voice. And when you listen to an audiobook, it's that voice. You know what I mean? I like to have my own voice in my own head of what that person should sound like and what they look like. And so when I read something,
that there's there's an Anne Rice series, The Witching Hour, that they made into a television series. And I can't watch the television series. Yeah. I just can't.
I watched
all right, guys.
Stuff, but not that. Yeah.
I've been on here forever. It feels like.
Wow, we have been.
I know it's been a really long time. Everybody go enjoy your weekend. Yes. Don't forget to try to please communicate with me in the comments, the community posts. I'm going to fix the whole situation, and we'll see you next weekend. Yep. Y'all be safe out there, okay?
Thoughts and prayers to everyone involved in the fires and then all of these airplane crashes that are happening.
Absolutely. Yes. And thank you so much to everyone in chat. I appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. See you next week.